All right, let's go ahead and talk about this Heat Celtics game. So, uh, you know, we don't have enough data for me to be able to run any sort of projections. And so this is like an area we're all like working on priors and estimates and just kind of trying to bet by feel. I've done manual adjustments on the power ratings from last year. And by those numbers, gave the Celtics, I upgraded them a half point for the win over the Sixers and how good they looked. Downgraded the Heat by a point because of how that loss to the Bulls. I won't necessarily track it game by game, but I did want to go ahead and be like, well, okay, like home opener, that's a significant loss. Beating the Sixers in a big time spot, that's a significant win. So my number is 4 on this. So at anything below 4, I feel pretty good on Boston. That can be an overreaction for sure. I like the Heat in the matchup last year. I bet the over on the number of games in that series and had some success there. Other than, kind of the bounce back spot after a weird loss to the Bulls without Zach LaVine, what do you like about the spot here? And what do you think is the advantage in the edge for Miami?
Yeah, first of all, Matt, you got it at -1.5. I got it at +2.5. So let's just get a 2-point game. We both win. That's the best. That's the best scenario. But honestly, to answer your question, I think it is a really good bounce back spot and an overreaction. I think that the fact that Bam went only 5 for 15 in that first game. It was a pretty embarrassing game, especially without Zach LaVine. I expect him to do a lot better, especially without Robert Williams. And this is a different type of matchup for someone like Al Horford, who does really, really well against Joe Embiid, who's more of a plotter. And now Bam is more of a roller. So I think that we're going to see a little bit of more creativity on offense for Miami. And then on defense, I think Boston, they had like a 26-2 fast break advantage. I don't think we're going to see that type of advantage, in transition here, especially on the road. So I think that's going to regress a little bit. So I think Miami, if they can keep Boston from running, because we know Boston can run, I think Miami does have a good shot. And obviously, if I'm going to be on the +2.5, I'm most likely going to sprinkle the money line as well.
So I think as part of this, here's like an interesting kind of thing that we found after this number came out Thursday afternoon. So it opens 1, it goes to 1.5, it spikes to 2.5 at spots immediately. Like there was a jump on one book from 1.5 to 2.5 immediately.
Yeah.
But it touched 3 and then immediately went back down to 2.5. So like that seems to be the buy point where there was some sort of signal from a group that books respect or an individual that pushed this back. So 2.5 is kind of the threshold. So I don't expect this to go past 3. I don't know how much the public is going to be on a road favorite in this spot, right? Even with the Celtics, I feel like there's likelihood to be a little bit of a pushback of, kind of an overcorrection. I'm trying not to overthink things in terms of the overreaction stuff, right? Like I'm trying not to be counter to certain things. Like you should be aware of overreactions for sure. Like my temptation right now, as we record this on Thursday night, is to never bet the Philadelphia 76ers again.
Oh my gosh, man. I was on them tonight as well.
Yeah. Like just to never bet them again because of how they started the season. But like, look, honestly, I'm going to be on the Embiid points prop for their next game versus a weak opponent. That's when he thrives. And so you just got to find the spots. Right now, the Sixers are kind of shown us maybe don't play them at this point in the season versus these better teams. But, with the Celtics, I'm not overreacting to it. It's more a matter of my prior coming in was Miami's maybe not as good. They lost PJ Tucker. They're trying out some new lineups. I've been stressing the fact they don't have a power forward all off season. And so if Miami is downgraded a little bit, and especially if we look at this number, right, at 2.5, we're saying that this is, even if we only give Miami 2 on the home court, and I've got them rated a little bit less than that. Even if we only give them 2 points on the home court, that's still only Celtics, minus a half point, -1 essentially with the bump, probably juiced against them. And if that's the case, I'm like, okay, does that sound right on a neutral court? Like, no, right? So that's the other part where I kind of get to this, where I think Boston probably, and the other thing is very few teams can match up with the Heat this way. One thing that I think might work in your favor though here is Miami's really reconfiguring their offense or their team structure towards offense. Like it was very clear that they went into the offseason and were like, look, man, the defense is there. We have like the high level guys, but we ran into these stretches where you just couldn't score. So they're trying to boost that. And you can tell that with the lineups that they're running, the rotations, Duncan Robinson's back in the rotation, etc. And if if the Celtics have a night where they don't hit shots like they did in game one, because they really did, they were liquid fire in that game, that probably helps you out here. It's like from that perspective, I can get on board. I think I feel still pretty good about Boston based off of, I just don't think the number's right. And so I'm willing to go ahead and go on that. But this is the thing about the NBA though. I can be right that the number was wrong and free throws can still bump this over.
That is the beauty of the NBA, Matt. And I agree with you. I think going into the season, I was lower on Miami, and we're talking about the Eastern Conference champs, right? And the Boston Celtics, they're trending up. They played an amazing game against Philadelphia. So I do agree with you. I think on a neutral court, if they play 10 times, Boston most likely wins 8 or 9 of those just because of pure talent, especially if they get Robert Williams back. But with this game here, I think it's just a good spot. It's one of those spots where I see value in. It would be completely different if Miami was favored here. I would most likely be on the Boston side. But I think there is a little bit of value. And hopefully that game just ends at 2 and then both of us can cash it.